Okay, so today we're going to start on exercise 223, which is very similar to what you did last class, except we're going to take the light fixtures that you make and put them into your actual final project for the class. And so this is a good point to point out why I scripted you to do this in a certain order. So you brought your building in as a block onto the topography. And I did that so that you can go back and make changes to your building on the building file and then update it in a variety of files as you do the interior night rendering, the exterior night rendering, etc. Because you'll want to be able to update geometry without messing with the lighting settings. So once you get the lighting settings right, the last thing you want to do is change the lighting settings. So what I'm going to do, this was currently set up as the day rendering, which we used in exercise 221. So I'm going to do a save as, and I'm going to save this on my flash drive. I'm going to make a new folder called assignment 205, and then inside of that, I'm going to call this A205 day exterior, and I'll click save, which will save all of my settings that I worked on for my exterior view. I'm going to move into an interior daytime view. So a lot of the settings are the same, and I could probably do it on the same file, but it's a little bit cleaner if I do it on a new file. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'll save this as a day, only this one it'll be an interior. So I'll go ahead and click Save. Okay, so there's a few things that I did add in this scene. I added all of these little block instances as grass. Chances are, from my interior, I'm not going to be seeing them on the exterior, so feel free to turn them off altogether. And so let me go ahead and create a new layer, and I'll call that lighting. I'll make that active, and then I'll go ahead and turn off the bunch grass because I don't really need it from the inside. So now it's a matter of setting up the interior view, and I have to think through what's the right interior view inside my building. And so I'll move myself into the interior of my building. If the view doesn't quite suit your needs, you may need to go to Properties and then adjust the lens length. I currently have a 28mm lens, but sometimes for an interior shot we might need an 18mm, which gives us a little bit wider angle view. And so this might be a nice view because I have some stairs in both directions, so that might be a reasonable view. So I'll save that view. Let me go to Set View, Named Views, and I'll go ahead and save this. And it could be Render 3 or it could be Interior 1. So we'll call it Interior 1. Now maybe I wanted there to be a view that was a little bit more, let's see here, inside this building. Let me see here. And this takes a little bit to try to get into the positioning that you want. Right? Maybe I wanted one to be kind of inside looking out toward the ocean, for example. So we'll set that up, and maybe this will be Interior 2. So I'll go to Set View, Named Views, and I'll call this Interior 2. Oops. Set View, Named Views. I must have minimized it somewhere. Oh, I docked it by accident. Come on. There we go. And let me go ahead and save as, and we'll call this Interior 2. Save. So I can pick from either of those views. It doesn't really matter which one I end up picking. And I'm going to go back to Interior 1 because I think it has a little bit more interest to it. Well, no, I'll do Interior 2 because it'll be easier to drop the can lights in the ceiling of this view. So now it's a matter of putting the lighting into the scene. I already have the extra stuff, so I already have the outside stuff. Sun's already installed, the HDRI is already installed, all of that's ready to go. But if I were to render right now, I would get a decent exterior but nothing showing up on the interior. it just a second to start. No, that's the good news. So I'm going to let this finish up just so we can see it as a comparison. All right, so as it's finishing up, we'll let it finish. You can see that I have my sky and my orientation already set up really nicely from the outside. I just opened the file from last time. But my interior, I get kind of splotchy walls, and it's pretty dark. I get the stripes of light, as the sun comes through, but I'm just not getting enough detail in the walls themselves. So this is where adding some interior lights for the day rendering can really make a difference. It can help. In reality, even though it's daylight outside, in a lot of buildings we turn artificial lighting on in addition to the daylight that's outside. So we're going to try to mimic that today. I'm going to go ahead and save this so I can come back to it as a reference point down the road. Today is 223. And I'll go ahead and save that just so we have it for future. Okay. So now it's a matter of inserting some light into this scene. So I'm going to put some light up on the ceiling here. I'll use my little can light that I created last class. You can choose to use any light that you want for the room. So I'll go ahead and go to Edit, Blocks, Insert Block Instance. And I'm going to pick that light fixture, or the can light that I created last class in exercise 222. It was the 3-inch. I'll go ahead and say OK. And this will then bring it in. Remember, I want to embed it and link it so that if I went back and updated it, I could. And we're going to drop it in to the ceiling. And so I'll try to drop it. I've got midpoint snap on. Let's see if I can get the midpoint. There's the midpoint of that wall. And I'm looking for kind of a nice spot on the wall. When you're doing this, sometimes if you use either X-ray or ghosted, you can get a little bit better results to kind of see through as to where this is going in the grand scheme of things. Let me go ahead and move this. And I want to move it by 1 foot. Let me turn on my, come on, stop snapping there. So it's a foot away from the wall. Right, and then maybe I want to have several of these. So we'll go at 2 feet, and then maybe at 4 feet, and maybe at 6 feet. Something like that. I'm just trying to drop some of these light fixtures in there. Let's take these 3, and I'll mirror those. Across the corner of my building here, if I can. So that I end up with them going out that direction. So I'm kind of lining the upper walls with a set of lights. Okay? So remember, just as before, I need to create the V-Ray light in here in addition to these lights with the emissive material on them. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to create my spotlight. And we'll do it to the center. That was definitely not the center. Let's try that one more time. With a radius or a diameter of 2 feet. So D 2 feet. And then I want the height to be 1 foot. I may have to do that in one of the side views. 1 foot. Now remember, just as before, I need to drop this light down so that it's below all of my objects. Like that. And then we need to go through and adjust some of the properties. So the color is going to be the 255, 214, 170, same as last class. The intensity will be 40 watts. And I want the decay to be inverse square. All right, so that looks pretty good. I've got that light set up. Now I need to copy it to the rest of the lights. So we'll take the light, we'll copy it. Let me turn off a few things here so that I have just the center snap on. Really nice. Here, I'll tell you what, I'll do it in the top view. It'll make life a little easier. And let me go to wireframe so that I can see it. And then I'll disable my snaps because it doesn't have to be perfect. We just need to drop them in for each of these. So we'll drop it there, there. Okay. This one's kind of out of place, so I really should move it, and we'll move these guys a bit too. All right, so I have those placed. I can go back to my interior 2 view. There's all of those lights that have been placed into my scene. We'll go back to the set view, interior 2. And now we can see some of the lights there, but we can also see the V-Ray lights that have been put in. And so when I render this, I'll get the wash of the lights on the wall in addition to what's happening in the background behind my building. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to do a render. And I'll pause the recording, and then I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like there, and then we'll move on and do something else. Okay? So this is kind of the nature of things at this point in the semester. We're going to have to do these breaks while I do the sample render, etc. So bear with me for a second. So you can see that I also turned on the distributed rendering, so it's going a lot faster than the last run. But I still, because this is a daytime rendering, I'm still getting the nicely exposed exterior. But now with the addition of these little can lights and the lighting on the walls, I'm getting a much more accurate lit interior view, right? So this is looking pretty good from where I need to be. I'm getting a little bit of reflection in the glass, which is what I want. I do make a note in the handout that if you used a more reflective glass on the exterior view, you might want to switch back to basic glass when you do the interior view, because you don't want it to be quite so reflective, and you're going to want to see outside of your building. So now that this one's done, I'll go ahead and save this so you can see the progression of these as we go forward. Just need it to finish those last two. Perfect. So I'll go ahead and save this. Okay, and so now it might be time to insert some furniture or something to add a little bit more to this. So I'll go find some furniture. Let me go to Flying Architecture. And let's look in the 3D models. Let's see what I can find here. Good old IKEA. I don't think I can quite do IKEA, right? I need something a little bit more attractive. All right, so here's a nice Barcelona chair. And let me go ahead and click on download. And they always change things. So apparently I needed email. Hold on, I think I already have this. No, apparently not. Okay, so bear with me for a second while I sign in and download this, and then we'll keep going. All right, so I was able to log in, and I was download that Barcelona chair. Let me extract all, and I'm going to browse to my flash drive in the folder for today. So let me go into 136, and today is 223. And we'll go ahead and extract it. Now, one of the things that happens whenever you download something from a website or whatever, before you go straight into your model and dump it in, it's always worthwhile to go ahead and open up the original file and have a look at it. This is where you would double check on scale, or double check on to make sure the materials are applied correctly, or make sure it doesn't have 20 different layers. So we'll go ahead and load that up. All right, so there it is. Let me go ahead and check on the layers. Only one layer. That'll work. Probably means that the materials have been assigned. All right, so we have leather. Let's make sure that the preview actually works. Good. Make sure the shiny aluminum works. That looks pretty good. Don't know why we have a default V-Ray material here. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. All right, good. And I'll go ahead and save this again. Okay, so now I have that saved. I'll jump over to my interior view here, and I'll go to Edit, Blocks, Insert Block Instance. And we'll go ahead and bring in the chair. Embed and link. And there it is. Now we want to make sure it ends up snapping to the floor, which can be rather challenging. So let me turn back on my snaps. I'll use an endpoint snap and snap to the side there. All right, then we have to do some orientation to make sure that it looks reasonable here. All right, so let's go ahead and move it away from the windows a bit. Maybe like that. Maybe we need to rotate it a bit. So that it looks reasonable in my view. Something like that. We may have to switch into a variety of views so that we can really get it in its proper position. Right there, it was intersecting the window. Right, maybe it needs to rotate so that we're seeing it. More the whole chair like that. Move back toward the window a little bit. Oh, looks like it's sunk. That happens. Make sure it's on the floor. All right, sounds pretty good. Then I'm going to bring in that lamp that I built too. So I'll go to Edit Blocks, Insert Block Instance. And does my lamp really belong with the Barcelona chair? Probably not. Probably not as well designed, but it's okay. We'll put it in anyway. So it's my floor lamp. I'll go ahead and say OK. embed and link. I'm going to replace the existing material and apply to all, and we'll drop it in here. Right? And so let's move it. We might need to see this in the top view as well. Put it like that. I think both of these have to move away from the wall a little bit. Right, something like that. And then I'll switch back to my interior 2 view. So I'll go to set view, interior 2. So I can take a look at this view. All right, it's looking reasonable, but I do need that point light in this as well. So let me go ahead and insert my point light, which is right here. And we'll drop it right on the bottom there. And then I do have to move that down a little bit. So we'll look at it in the side view here. We'll move it down so it's kind of in the center. And then we'll adjust some of the properties. So just as before, 255, 214, 170. Okay, 40 watts. Inverse square. And we're good on that as well. Let me switch back to my interior 2 view. There we go. And so now, since I've set it up with a little bit more information in it, go to interior 2, good. I'm going to go ahead and save this before I render it, and then I'll go ahead and render it again. So I've added just a little bit more detail, another level of detail, to get this as a nice interior rendering. Okay? So once again, I'll pause while the render starts, and then we'll talk about it after it's done. Okay, so here it is in its glory here. Apparently, this was the one that still had the holes in the lampshade, so it's not exactly what I was intending for it. But you get the idea, right? So I'm adding little bits to enhance this particular view. If I end up not liking this view because it's a little too close, maybe I'll switch the camera angle, pull it back a little bit more, and create this rendering. But this is the goal today, right? Where we're getting a good quality interior rendering with lighting, where we can still see out a window and kind of see the background context. So you should already have the background context from 221. It's just a matter of making the interior context. Okay? Remember, if you keep updating your building, because it's a block and it's referenced in, each time you open your file, you can go to the block manager and update to the current version of your building and re-render. So setting up these lights and everything is not a problem at this stage because of how you set up the file from the beginning. Okay? Does that make sense? So this is also the time in the semester where you are going to vary in terms of where you are. Right? You might not get to the point where you have this final of an interior rendering. When you get your exercise 223 at the end of class today and you need to post something, it would be nice if it was an interior view. It would be nice if it had lights in it. But if it's not quite resolved or there's holes in the building or something, that's okay. I recognize that you're all working toward the end goal. But you do need to post something. So make sure you actually post something at the end today, even if it's unfinished, even if it's not quite right. Keep yourself up to date and current with the posts. Does that make sense? Okay? So wherever you get is good. All right, so I'll turn you loose. I would also add that next class is the really fun one where we go to night and we actually do the night rendering. So we're getting there.